Well, welcome to our first editor Slugfest, talking about the Oscar races this year. We've got Joyce, Marcus Dixon, and Daniel Montgomery, and I'm Chris Beachum. We're going to talk about Best Picture for the next few minutes. Of course, there could be up to 10 Best Picture nominees. Usually it's more like 8 or 9. So right now, let's start with Marcus. What do you have in first place?
Well, I had A Star is Born for a while, and it is one of my favorites of the whole year. But I'm starting to feel this surge for, and this may shock some people, but Black Panther. Do not count out Black Panther. I think it's going to get way more nominations than any other superhero in recent memory. And look, people are laughing. I can hear you laughing. But at one time in our lifetime, a superhero film is going to win Best Picture. It's going to happen. So why not this year? This movie made $700 million. It's the third highest grossing film in U.S. history. And it's the #1 film on Rotten Tomatoes, too, for 2018. So this is serious. We have to consider it.
Well, I agree with you that it's got a shot. I also, the social relevance, very rarely do you get a Black superhero. The whole world they create. We're coming up on a time, and it could be Black Panther, it could be Star is Born, it could be next year, where just an overwhelming box office hit is going to win Best Picture again. It's not to their benefit to have an independent film every single year win Best Picture. The public doesn't know those movies very well. Joyce, what do you think? What's in first for you?
I have A Star is Born. And I just feel like right now, like, it has everything going for it. Obviously, a lot can happen between now and February, but it has the reviews, it has the box office. I love that it's been #2 in the box office this whole month. And like in a year where like they try to, institute Best Popular Film, we have like, I think it's made like 150 million so far. And we have an actual like box office smash that could probably win Best Picture. And it's appealing. It's just it has like there's nothing else right now that has like everything it has going for it. So I think it's the front runner right now. But there's still so many things left to open in theaters and with like the public response as well. But I mean, I have Black Panther in my predictions. I think it's still too early to say that it's going to win, but I certainly would have no issue with it winning Best Picture.
Daniel?
I've got A Star is Born too, sort of by default at this point. It's sort of like Joyce said, it's still very early. And this is one of those interesting years. I don't think there's not an obvious front runner right now, at least not yet. Like in some past years, like even last year, like I don't know if everyone was predicting Shape of Water at this point, but everyone knew that was a top, or it could be a top contender and was likely to be a top contender, and Guillermo could win Best Director. This year, I don't think we have anything even that secure. So A Star is Born kind of has everything going for it. As Joyce said, it's a big box office hit. It's one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year. Whether it's a big box office hit or an indie film, it has some of the best reviews of the year. It's got that breakout performance by Lady Gaga. It's got Bradley Cooper playing an alcoholic, this incredibly emotional story arc. So I really think the only thing that could hurt it is maybe a kind of La La Land style backlash, but I think that'll only happen if like some groups go overboard. Like if it
wins 7 Golden Globes.
If it wins 7 Golden Globes, if it gets 35 Oscar nominations, if it gets like people are going to start looking at it, it's like, okay, maybe slow down a bit. But right now I think the only thing that the film I'm looking at as the potential spoiler there is right now I have Green Book ranked second. It's still kind of an unknown quantity in the sense that it hasn't opened in theaters yet. We don't know how this thing is going to actually do with audiences. But it won People's Choice at the Toronto Film Festival. 3 Billboards won that last year. It didn't win Best Picture, but it came a lot closer than I think early on in the season we thought 3 Billboards was going to get. It's kind of a feel-good movie, but it also has a sense of importance. It's got a recent Oscar winner, and it's got Viggo Mortensen, who's due. Peter Farrelly is not known for a prestige fare, but he could pull an Adam McKay and be the kind of comic director who gets serious and all of a sudden gets taken seriously at the Oscars. So I think right now Green Book is the second film that I'm looking at as a potential contender.
And Green Book's in a good position because the buzz hasn't hit yet. Like, no one's going to go into this movie thinking, oh, this better be the best thing I've ever seen. Whereas with A Star is Born, the buzz is hitting now. So Star is Born, again, I loved it, but can it go any higher, or can it only go lower from here? Once you're the front runner early, there's only one place to go.
And when Daniel says La La Land backlash, it wasn't backlash like we've seen on some movies that people suddenly said, well, we disagree with this philosophy, or not that kind of backlash. What happened, and we could hear it, but we weren't believing it, was that by the time people saw it, in, let's say, on screeners in December and January, it was more of a, oh, is that all this movie is, because of all the wins and nominations that it had by the time they saw it. I even had friends to say that normally would have liked it immediately. So that's the only. Star is Born came out, the first weekend of October. So by the time a lot of voters might get to see it, that's the only thing that we're wondering about now that we have that lesson from 2 years ago. I've got it in first as well. The other thing about it is when they build movies, they build them for certain demographics. And of course, the best kind of movie, if you're a marketing department, is one that's going to appeal to men and women. That's the perfect scenario for Star is Born. The men don't mind going and seeing it because Bradley Cooper is a macho guy and a rock star. And then the women don't, they love a good romantic, love story. So, and I'm talking about demographics in general, not any given person. So it's appealing to men and women is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. So that's never a bad thing when you're talking about voters. I've also got Green Book in second. It has really been the movie at these two festivals so far that Middleburg and Toronto that Daniel was talking about. People just walk out happy. I think there's a mood or a sentiment in the society right now where they just want to be happy after they see a TV show or a movie. They're just sick of animosity all day long, either watching the news or just in real life. So I wonder, there's nothing about Green Book definitely gets into issues of the 60s and social change and racial tensions. But it's also funny, and it's competing as a Globe comedy category. So it's something that you do walk out of feeling happy about.
I think it will be a big box office hit. It's coming out at the right time, Thanksgiving. Like, I think a lot of people are just going to go with their families to see it. It's going to have great word of mouth. And it's one of those like irresistible movies that you're just going to be like, it may not be even your favorite movie of the year, but you like it coming out of it, and you're just going to tell people to watch it. It has like universal appeal for everyone.
Looking at our Gold Derby experts' predictions, these are journalists from around the internet. 14 of them think A Star is Born. 11 think Roma, which we haven't talked about, and then one, Tim Gray Variety, picks Black Panther. And that's interesting because I feel like last year at this time there was at least 5 or 6 movies that were being predicted by our experts, and now they're down to 3.
Oh yeah, I think last year it was around I think by December there were still 8 movies that
it was like Lady Bird and Shape of Water.
Like at this point last year, Dunkirk still had a lot of people thinking it was going to win, myself included. I thought Dunkirk could go the distance last year. So this year I think we're less looking at things to fall by the wayside and more looking for things to start rising up in ways that we haven't seen yet or weren't expecting.
Well, keep in mind as you watch, I always think about in advance what I think about when I think about different groups and what we're going to see on wins and nominations. Green Book is not going to be the type going in. We can all agree on this. That's going to win a bunch of. It's not going to win LA film critics or New York film critics, or it's probably not going to win Critics' Choice, although it'll be nominated. So don't use that as a guide. But Lady Gaga probably isn't either. She could still win the Oscar and not win with any of the groups I just mentioned. They both need to count on the Globes, though. Green Book's got to win comedy musical at the Globes, assuming Star is Born stays in drama, and Lady Gaga has got to win actress if she's going to win the Oscar, because that's the 2 groups that are most likely to embrace those. So I look at expectations and try to think about them in advance as opposed to what happens after the fact. Marcus, who else do you have in your top, say, 5 or 6?
Roma could pull it off. I mean, this is a movie that's going to get a ton of craft nominations, like cinematography and production design, and it's a beautiful film to watch. And Chris, I know you're on board with the director winning as well. And how often have we seen the director and the picture lineup match up perfectly? And I also have The Favorite. I also have Beale Street, Black Klansman, Vice, First Man.
Okay. Joyce, well, who are some of the other ones you have in your top 10?
Yeah, I have those. I have Roma in second. I can see it winning, but you know, it's still a foreign language film. But I feel like that's the one that's like the critical favorite. It's gonna, like Marcus said, have the most like crafts nominations, or a lot of them. And Alfonso Cuarón could have like up to 5 nominations himself. I feel like that's going to be the most admired film, so I think that's like its pathway. I have Green Book in third, The Favorite, First Man, Beale Street, and Black Klansman, Black Panther. So,
Daniel?
Yeah, I've got Roma in third. I think it has a shot at Best Picture. You know, being a black and white foreign language film, normally we'd be like, that's not happening. But I think there's something about the Netflix effect. I feel like last year they had a big breakthrough with winning for Icarus and getting those 4 nominations for Mudbound. Now they've got the prestige directors. You know,
and they're releasing it in theaters.
Yeah, they're releasing it in theaters. You know, it's Alfonso Cuarón's follow-up to Gravity, and the fact that it's going to be on Netflix means a lot of people are going to have access to this. It's not going to have the effect, I don't think, as the same kind of effect as a kind of tiny art house movie. I think it's going to play differently than that. I think we're going to see something slightly different, with the Netflix effect. I've got Beale Street. Too. Yeah, I've got Beale Street ranked 4th. I think that could do better than maybe we're expecting it to. Like it'll be interesting. Barry Jenkins, the film won Best Picture last, Barry Jenkins' Moonlight won Best Picture a couple of years ago. But he lost Best Director, even though he won Screenplay. I could see him win Director this time and maybe not win Best Picture, depending on how that film takes off, how it does at the box office. I think that's going to be big at the Critics Awards. I think First Man, its box office it hasn't done as well as hoped, which might hurt its chances at the Oscars. But I think under most other circumstances, that's exactly the kind of movie you look at and would be a potential contender. So I wouldn't write it out. And I also think The Favorite could rise up. That's a weird movie, but I think that's going to be a crowd pleaser in a certain, even if in a niche kind of way. Because it's just, and it's got the stars. So, and I've also got Black Panther, Black Klansman, Vice, and I'm actually in my 10th slot. I'm sort of wishful thinking for 8th grade, to be maybe the surprise indie that kind of comes in. I think that'll do well at the Critics Awards and for like younger actress honors for Elsie Fisher.
Well, as we wrap up, The Favorite is one I wanted to. I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's the kind of movie that I've heard over and over from different people. I can't imagine them not marking that number 1. So the people that I'm talking about, it's their favorite movie of the year, and nothing is going to top that for them. If it's you have to see it to understand what I'm about to say, but if it's your type of movie and it is one of your favorites of the year, then it's going to be your number 1. There's nothing else like it. So that's one to watch for. The 2 that we didn't mention at all that I definitely think could crack a Best Picture lineup, both have rooting factors. Widows is about 4 women fighting back against all the people that are holding them down, and they've got to get some money, and it's got a real rooting factor to it, and that's somebody that's obviously won Best Picture, Steve McQueen. And then A Quiet Place, that's been chugging along since the spring, and it's still being talked about. I could definitely see its potential for in that 4 or 5 Oscar nomination. If you get in that 4 or 5 range, you could definitely get in for Best Picture.
It could get a screenplay nomination or even win, like Get Out did last year.
Visual effects, maybe sound category or 2. We're working with the cinematographer on that for a Below the Line panel later this year. And the news that Emily Blunt is going supporting that we broke last week. You know, she didn't want to compete with herself on Mary Poppins, so she's going to go supporting. John's supporting as well. You know, she's a very overlooked actress at the Oscars. At some point this year, next year, year after, she's going to get a nomination. She's that good in everything she does. So maybe this is the year.
Mm.
Well, thanks. We're going to have other Slugfests that you can watch on different other races. So thanks for watching our Best Picture one, and come back and join us again soon.